Hello everyone, today we will uncover one of the strangest unsolved mysteries in the world. A story so bizarre that it continues to baffle investigators, skeptics, and paranormal enthusiasts even after decades. It is known as the lead masks case, a chilling tale from Brazil in 1966, where two men were found dead under the most mysterious circumstances, wearing strange lead masks that covered their eyes, and surrounded by cryptic notes that left more questions than answers. Our story begins on August 20, 1966, on a hillside known as Vintém Hill near Niterói, Brazil. A young boy flying a kite discovered two bodies lying side by side in the grass. At first, he thought it might be people sleeping, but when he drew closer, he realized something was terribly wrong. The police were called, and soon the scene would become one of the most infamous mysteries in South America. The two men were identified as Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana, both electronic technicians from the town of Campos dos Goitacazes. They had traveled to Niterói a few days earlier, telling their families that they were going to buy supplies for their work. But what the authorities found near their bodies suggested they were not there for ordinary business. Both men were dressed in formal suits, lying neatly on the ground as if they had prepared themselves. Covering their eyes were unusual lead masks, the kind one might use to protect from radiation or bright light. These masks immediately struck investigators as strange. Why would two men wear such items in the middle of a hillside with no obvious source of danger nearby? Even more baffling were the items found near the bodies. Police discovered a notebook containing cryptic instructions written in Portuguese. The note read, "Be at the place at 16:30, take capsules. After effect, protect metals, wait for mask signal." These words made little sense to investigators. What capsules? What metals? What mask signal? Were these men expecting some kind of event, or were they part of an experiment that went horribly wrong? The scene revealed no signs of struggle. There were no injuries, no signs of violence, and no evidence that the men had been attacked. An autopsy was performed, but due to the delays in the investigation and poor conditions, the internal organs of the bodies were too badly decomposed to determine whether they had ingested poison or drugs. No capsules or containers were found near the bodies, which only deepened the mystery. Investigators began to look into the backgrounds of Cruz and Viana. They were known to be hardworking, intelligent men, deeply involved in electronics. But they were also fascinated by spiritualism, UFO, and the possibility of extraterrestrial life. Friends and family later testified that the two had been members of a spiritualist group that conducted experiments to make contact with beings from another world. This connection gave rise to one of the most enduring theories about the lead masks case, that the men were attempting to make contact with aliens. The cryptic note could be instructions for a ritual, with the capsules meant to alter their consciousness. The lead masks in this interpretation were protection from the bright lights of an expected UFO encounter. If true, then Cruz and Viana may have died waiting for beings who never arrived, or perhaps they were victims of exposure to something beyond human understanding. But skeptics offered more grounded explanations. Some believed the men were victims of a scam, tricked into taking poison by someone who promised them a spiritual or scientific breakthrough. Others thought the men had been experimenting with dangerous homemade drugs in an attempt to achieve altered states of consciousness, and the experiment had turned fatal. The lack of capsules at the scene, however, remains a sticking point. If they had ingested something, where were the containers? The case also took on a cult-like atmosphere. Some investigators speculated that the men belonged to a secret society or esoteric group that practiced strange rituals involving masks and drugs. Witnesses even claimed to have seen strange lights in the sky near Vintém Hill on the night the men died, fueling speculation of a UFO encounter. The families of the men were devastated but offered little clarity. They knew of the men's interest in the supernatural, but they could not explain why they would travel to Niterói, put on suits, and lie down on a hillside with lead masks on their faces. The unanswered questions haunted the investigation, which eventually stalled due to lack of evidence. Even today, the lead masks case remains unsolved. It is a rare mystery because it lies at the crossroads of so many possibilities: science, spirituality, crime, and the paranormal. Were Cruz and Viana brilliant men who fell victim to their own experiments? Were they murdered as part of a conspiracy, or were they truly attempting to contact something otherworldly on that hillside in 1966? The lead masks case is one of those mysteries that refuses to fade. Decades later, people continue to debate what truly happened to Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana. To get closer to the truth, we must look deeper into the theories and strange details that surround this baffling case. One of the earliest theories was simple poisoning. Investigators believed that the cryptic note mentioning capsules implied the men ingested something, perhaps hallucinogenic or toxic. If they had taken drugs, it might explain why they lay down calmly on the hillside and did not resist whatever came next. However, the lack of containers at the scene raised questions. If they took capsules, why was no evidence of packaging left behind? Some suggest that a third party might have removed the capsules to conceal the truth. Others argue that decomposition of the bodies may have destroyed traces of the substance in their systems before proper testing could be done. A second theory focuses on their connection to spiritualist and UFO groups. Reports indicate that Cruz and Viana had previously experimented with unusual methods to make contact with beings from other worlds. Friends recalled that they once attempted to build a machine to communicate with spirits or extraterrestrials. Some even said that their experiments involved strange lights and electrical devices. The lead masks may have been part of these experiments, designed to protect their eyes from intense light. Witnesses claimed to see unusual glowing objects in the sky on the night the men died, which gave rise to the idea that they were waiting for a UFO encounter that never went as planned. Another layer of intrigue comes from the men's backgrounds. As electronic technicians, Cruz and Viana were intelligent and curious, but also deeply fascinated with the unknown. Their interest in UFO and psychic experiments may have led them to believe they could transcend ordinary reality. The notebook entry, "Be at the place at 16:30, take capsules, after effect protect metals, wait for mask signal," reads almost like ritual instructions. Some believe it was part of an initiation into a secret society or esoteric group, one that encouraged them to perform dangerous experiments in pursuit of enlightenment. The protect metals A line is particularly strange. Did it refer to shielding their bodies from radiation? Was it symbolic language for protecting their spiritual selves? Or was it simply a nonsensical instruction written under the influence of strange beliefs? No one knows for sure. The cult theory also gained traction. Brazil in the 1960s was home to numerous spiritualist movements, some blending Christianity with elements of mysticism and occult practice. It is possible that Cruz and Viana were drawn into one such group that encouraged them to perform rituals involving masks and ingestion of substances. If so, they may have been victims of blind faith, following instructions without fully understanding the consequences. On the other hand, skeptics argue that this case may be nothing more than a tragic accident born from curiosity. Two men fascinated by UFO and spiritualism may have experimented with home-made hallucinogens. Without medical knowledge, they could have taken a fatal dose, lay down to wait for visions, and died peacefully side by side. The lead masks may have been nothing more than an attempt to shield themselves from hallucinated or imagined lights. The cultural context cannot be ignored either. The 1960s was a time when UFO sightings were on the rise worldwide, with the space race fueling imaginations about extraterrestrial life. In Brazil, stories of glowing lights in the sky were common, and many people believed in direct contact with alien beings. The idea that Cruz and Viana were preparing themselves for such an encounter fits neatly into this atmosphere of fascination and fear. Despite these theories, there is still no clear answer. The investigation ended with more questions than solutions. The families never received closure, and the world was left with one of the strangest unsolved cases in modern history. Even today, paranormal researchers and UFO enthusiasts travel to Vintém Hill, hoping to uncover clues or feel the lingering energy of the event. The lead masks case also stands as a cautionary tale about human curiosity. It reminds us that the pursuit of hidden knowledge can sometimes lead to dangerous paths. Whether the men were victims of a scam, a cult, or their own experiments, they paid the ultimate price for seeking answers beyond the ordinary. But what keeps this mystery alive is the imagery, the sight of two men in formal suits, lying side by side on a lonely hill, their eyes covered by crude lead masks, with a notebook of cryptic instructions at their side. It is a scene that reads like something from a science fiction novel, yet it happened in reality. That haunting image continues to inspire speculation, books, documentaries, and endless debate. In the end, the truth of the lead masks case may never be known. Perhaps it was a tragic mistake, perhaps a secret ritual gone wrong, or perhaps something otherworldly that defies explanation. Whatever the case, it has secured its place in the history of unsolved mysteries, a story that will continue to fascinate and terrify as long as humans are drawn to the unknown.